Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cup Council. How are we all? Hopefully, all of you are having a fantastic Wednesday, wherever we are around the world. Hopefully, everyone's had a good Easter weekend. Of course, it's been, I know obviously it's a bit from the weekend now, but still, of course, obviously, I know hopefully everyone had a good weekend. And of course, Liverpool could have been champions tonight, but of course, look, it's now looking more likely it's going to be on the weekend. Of course, if it looked likely at all that Liverpool would have been Premier League champions tonight, the show would have been a bit later on, of course, anyway. But we are here, of course, to discuss the latest Liverpool news for you guys this evening. And of course, we're going to discuss Dean Huijsen. Of course, obviously, there's been a lot of conversation today, certainly around journalists, of course, making a lot of stories about Dean Huijsen and, of course, the teams that are looking likely at the minute to be, of course, in favour of him joining in the summer, of course. We'll talk all about that in due course. We're also going to talk about Milos Kerkez as well. And, of course, we're going to talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold. Is he staying? A bit of a question, of course, after a few rumours this morning suggesting that Liverpool are going to try one last time to get him to sign a new contract. Anyway, but of course, let me know all of you are. Of course, I know everybody's probably watching the footy, which, I have it on the screen right now. Of course, it is currently Arsenal 2, Palace 1. But look, if Palace were to draw, Liverpool would only need a point then on Sunday to be Premier League champions. As of things right now, Liverpool still need 3 points to be crowned Premier League champions. Anyway, but big up Hero as well. Hopefully doing well, my friend. And if you are new around here, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and all that good stuff as well. And let's just dive straight into the episode then. And we're gonna, we are gonna kick things off, and we are going to talk about Dean Huijsen, of course. Probably is going to be the most talked about centre half, probably of the summer, I would say personally. Looking at teams that could compete for him, of course, obviously as the title says. Of course, you've got Liverpool, Arsenal, and more importantly, Chelsea in that conversation. Which, of course, Chelsea have been the main ones in the conversation, really, as of today, of course, and it is due to. It is due to. I'm sorry, I've just seen Heroes chat long neck on him as well. Yes, he does have a very long neck, to be fair, but it is in, of course, relation to Chelsea, and of course Chelsea being rumoured to him, of course. And when we do look at it, of course, this is Matt Law's report. I have to think then who the reporter was. Sorry, it is Matt Law's report from the Telegraph as well, as it says below, as you guys can see on screen. I will move my head out the way for a quick second so you guys can see the title, as it says below. Chelsea favourites to land 50 million rated Dean Huijsen as well, which again is not great for a Liverpool side of things, really, let's be honest. Anyway, but of course Liverpool's name is still in the conversation when it does come to Dean Huijsen. Now, what the article piece does go on to say, it says, but Enzo Maresca is looking for a ball-playing central defender that can boost the backline as well as complement Wesley Fofana. So it's not even Levi Colwill that they're looking at that, of course. But so it does go on to say Chelsea are leading the race to sign Bournemouth defender Dean Huijsen in a move that would be a boost for head coach Enzo Maresca. Huijsen has had a £50 million release clause in his Bournemouth contract that is thought to become active at the end of the season, and Chelsea have moved to the front of the queue for his signature. Maresca is keen for the club to sign a ball-playing central defender to complement Wesley Fofana and also help to mitigate the importance of absences throughout injuries. Chelsea have struggled with Fofana, with Maresca viewing his ability as crucial in his style of football for the team's success at building from the back. Huijsen, who is two-footed, has provided himself to be an excellent ball-playing central defender at Bournemouth this season and could play on the left. Play to the left of Fofana, on the right when the Frenchman is injured. And of course, it does go on to say, we quickly scroll down, it says, but Huijsen has a number of admirers at home and abroad, including Liverpool and Real Madrid, but Chelsea have been tracking him since before January and are believed to be ready to pay his release clause. Chelsea's long-standing interest and plan for the 20-year-old is likely to be attracting to him whether or not the club qualify for next season's Champions League. There's already a favourable relationship between Chelsea's and Huijsen's agents, and Chelsea and Bournemouth successfully did business over goalkeeper Kepa Arrizabalaga last summer, of course. Now, with this, you have to take it with a pinch of salt in some degree. Am I turning around and saying that Chelsea are favourites? According to that report, yes, they are, according to Matt Law's report. But what is interesting, it says agents. Now, and obviously the big talking point when it does come to Dean Huijsen, and of course when it does come around, his situation is agents, and supposedly Chelsea's agent, not Chelsea's agent, sorry, Dean Huijsen's agent is very much well connected then, let's say, to Chelsea Football Club. Of course, I believe the partnership, of course, they've done deals in the past concerning Nicholas Jackson, and obviously more notably for Liverpool, Moises Caicedo, which again, could it be 2.0 in that situation? I'm not so sure, to be fair, but I do also look at it and go, the rumors are at the moment that Dean Huijsen wants to be playing top level football, which again goes to, kind of links into what he, wants to do really. I think obviously the career ladder for him is join a top English club, then move on to Real Madrid in the future. I think he's been very vocal upon that because Real Madrid look like they're not going to be involved at all in this conversation in terms of getting Dean Huijsen in now. And I do look at it and go, look, Liverpool, there's two sides of the coin where Liverpool are concerned. Simply because on the one side, Dean Huijsen's a brilliant defender, and again, he's only 20. The fact that he's so good now, of course, he can develop into, what we talk about, a Virgil van Dijk replacement. He could be Virgil van Dijk's replacement long term. But on the other side of it, it's also that saying of course, if he doesn't want to play for Liverpool, or of course, if there's that, that question mark of, who do I want to go to? Again, I kind of look at it and go, unless you look at Liverpool and go, yeah, I want to play immediately, is that the type of player you want signing for the football club? I'm not so sure. And of course, there's different rumors and different reports, and of course, we've got a different report from Sam McBell as well, of course, talking about this Dean Huijsen news as well. But even on the on the report we've just read out, again, the big talking point is again agents, and that could be obviously a massive factor. I think Alex Crook mentioned the Liverpool favourites in his report, that he said that Liverpool were favourites over Chelsea and Arsenal because Liverpool had again are very attractive to Dean Huijsen, where you look at it potentially, and he could potentially be Liverpool's second choice centre half next season behind Virgil van Dijk. Because again, Ibu Konate's contract is currently up in the air. Whether or not he's going to re-sign is another question mark as well. And I think, of course, Liverpool supposedly are working very hard on the deal, but again, Liverpool are not going to be limited for options. They could go all out for Huijsen. Of course, there is that £50 million release clause, but still, in terms of the back room, ground checks and so on, it's kind of that sense of as where Liverpool, again, they might have been a bit too late towards that, obviously, with Chelsea. And of course, like we said, the partnership that Chelsea have with Dean Huijsen's camp already, again, it's going to be impossible with that, really. But again, I think it does really come down to the player himself. What is the project that he wants? Because I don't think he's, even though he's young, I don't think he's one that's going to be, I don't think he's going to be one that's, immediately shoved off, really. I think his opinion will be very valid, and of course he may turn around and go, look, I want to join Chelsea, I think the Chelsea project is going to be good, and of course he could do that. But I look at it on a football side of things. Look, Chelsea are not going to finish in the Champions League, in my opinion, this season. Could be proven wrong, with the last couple of games of the season coming up, but I don't think they get Champions League. Of course, I think they'll get Europa League. I think they'll win the Conference League. In that regard, of course, they'll finish in a Europa League spot anyway. But I do think, look, it's something that for me, obviously looking at it in a non-biased side of it, I do look at it a little bit. And I'm like, why would you want to join Chelsea? And look at how the Chelsea project's going. Are Chelsea moving forward in their project? No, really. I'd say they probably took a step back this season compared to what it was last season. And of course, obviously, Maresca can argue about injuries and of course other bits and pieces, but I think a lot of it with Enzo Maresca has been tactically this season. I think judging from a lot of noise coming from Chelsea supporters, Chelsea fans have pretty much turned around and said that Maresca has one way, one train of thought, and really, if you need to change from that train of thought, he doesn't know how to adapt in games and so on as well. And of course, with that, would you want that, or go to even the teams that he's also been linked with? You look at Arsenal, you look at Liverpool, both teams fighting. Arsenal are in a Champions League semi-final. Liverpool are about to go on and win the Premier League title. And when you look at that as a player, you want to be at that top of football. You want to be competing for Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. And I don't think Chelsea are going to do that for the next couple of years, at least. Like, it would have to take something very drastic for Chelsea to be in a competitive environment. I would say personally, and looking at it, of course, they have top class players. Moises Caicedo, Cole Palmer, of course, as well. Has been good. Throughout the last 2 seasons, but it's also that sense of like, for what they've spent, I look at it and go, they can improve on so many things. Just looking at it at the outside in. Really, but again, let me know your guys' thoughts. Of course, we're gonna have a look at the other article as well from Sam McBell in a minute, anyway. But again, Liverpool will sign Huijsen, Shirky, Kirkez, and either Osimhen or Ekitike. Again, I would love that, to be fair. But he won't go to Chelsea. Maybe not, mate. Have you been playing? No, I don't think so. By any chance? Oh, because of the friggin'. Wait, is there any thing in this? No, I don't think there is. No, hero. Anyway, but Johnson's icon. How many times are we going to keep losing transfer targets to Chelsea? It's getting so boring. I kind of look at it though, and it's not the same nowadays though, like it was maybe 15 years ago or 10 years ago. It wasn't like it wasn't like Fernando Torres, really, because look, you look at it. Of course, we lost out to Caicedo, we lost out to Lavia, but look, you look at Wataru Endo. Wataru Endo's going to win a Premier League. Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia have not won a Champions League, Premier League, as of yet. So I look at that and go, all right, Liverpool have lost out to key players, but Liverpool, I say we've been good with transfers over the last few years, and I feel like obviously the summer that we bought Endo, we bought obviously McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch. Of course, that's been our midfield. But I think over the last 5 years, we have had an up and down period, really. And I think obviously now with Data coming back to the club, I think obviously Data was used quite a lot in the in the midfield rebuild, really. McAllister was a data driven by and as well Jurgen Klopp by. Dominic Szoboszlai as well was a data driven one, but also he was quoted too high of a price point until Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp put pressure on the club to do that. Ryan Gravenberch the same. The club identified Ryan Gravenberch back in 2018, 2017. When he was in, of course, in the youth academies and so on for Ajax, and I think in 2019, I think the Athletic did a report on I think the three midfielders that Liverpool had to buy to again rebuild the midfield for Liverpool. Of course, 2 of those 3 names were Jude Bellingham and Ryan Gravenberch. And I look at that and go, well, again, Ryan Gravenberch has been brilliant for Liverpool this season. When he's been given an opportunity, when he has been given opportunities in this Liverpool team, he's been good. But it's that sense of as well, he needs rest, he needs backup for that as well. But I would say personally, it's not as bad as what it used to be, really. But look, I think with data now, and I think with the players that Liverpool, the players that Liverpool have done the groundwork on, I think, again, I feel positive about transfers now. And it is a huge summer for Liverpool. And of course, we can obviously digest, of course, what happens at the end of the season and obviously talk about it then. But at the end of the summer to look at where the squad is. But again, I'm confident going into this summer that, again, Liverpool are going to have a very good window and hopefully compete next season once again. But Liverpool will buy just 4 players: Huijsen, Kirkez, Shirky, and Ekitike. Well, Ekitike is not going for 60 mil now. He's going for 100 million. So there's no chance of that. Even though I think Ekitike is a very good player and has potential to be a very, very good player, I just don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. Anyway, but we will not move on. Of course, we're still going to talk about Dean Huijsen, but we're going to take a look then at, of course, Samuel McBell's report on Dean Huijsen as well. Of course, it is on the BBC because I believe Samuel McBell is the head reporter or head journalist now on the BBC as well. So you guys might not be able to see that, but again, I'll read it out to you guys anyways. But it does say Bournemouth defender Dean Huijsen is subject of genuine interest from Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Newcastle heading into the summer transfer window. The central defender is looking likely to become one of the hottest properties of the summer transfer window, and a number of clubs in Europe are also interested in the 20-year-old. Initial reports indicate that Huijsen has a £50 million release clause. Information has been confirmed by multiple BBC sports sources. Bournemouth are aware of the Premier League quartet interested and are growing increasingly resigned to losing their youngster. However, the hopes of the English club could depend on whether an elite European side steps up their interest in the Spain defender. Bayern Munich and Real Madrid have also been linked with the centre-back in recent weeks. Well-placed sources have indicated that Huijsen would protest a move to Real if the La Liga club were to accelerate their interest. It does go on to say, as you guys can see, but there hopefully they does say it's also understood that while regular playing time to ensure his continued development will be key consideration for Huijsen when it comes to settling on his future, the prospect of Champions League participation will also be a factor. So again, if that is to be believed, again, we talked about Chelsea in terms of their Champions League hopes. And again, if they don't get Champions League, I don't think Dean Huijsen's going to Chelsea. Despite them, they could end up potentially offering him £250,000 per week. Again, I don't think if they don't get Champions League, because when you look at it, that's 2 seasons now they've been out of the biggest competition in Europe, really. But again, as it does go on to say, but there, Chelsea have a good relationship with Huijsen's advisors, which could also prove critical. Liverpool's interest in the ex-Juventus defender may depend on developments over Ibrahima Konaté's future. Konaté is regular for Arne Slot's team this season, is out of contract at the end of next season, and if an agreement over an extension cannot be reached by the start of the campaign, Liverpool may have to consider alternatives. Joe Gomez and Joel Konsa's future at Anfield could also impact Liverpool's level of interest in Huijsen. With Newcastle will prioritise a new central defender this summer, having missed out on a number 1 target, Crystal Palace captain Mark Gahey last year, and could attract Huijsen's, particularly if they qualify for the Champions League, which I think they will end up doing. I think Huijsen will. Not Huijsen. I think Newcastle will qualify for the Champions League. I think they're that good now as well. But even still, looking at it, I do think they'll end up qualifying for the Champions League, because I think they will just be too good from now until the end of the season. for me anyway. But again, reading that article piece, and especially, of course, like we mentioned in the Matt Laws one as well, it does feel like certainly with Dean Huijsen that again, European football could be a factor of him, choosing his next club as well. Which again, to think we've only got, what is it, after this weekend, we've got 5 league games left to go as well. So again, towards the end of May, I think we'll start hearing a lot more reports coming out, which team, he has chosen. I do think if Chelsea don't get Champions League, I think it will be Liverpool that will end up getting him. But it's also that annoying thing of, again, the agents, and that's going to be a sticky factor because again, like we saw with Caicedo, Liverpool put that bid in for him, and it didn't quite obviously materialize. Obviously, Liverpool put that world record bid in for him, and you kind of look at it and go, well, Liverpool believed there was a deal there to be done, and the agent really played Liverpool like a fool. I still think we got played like a fool, because it was to really shift Chelsea on. Let's be honest. It wasn't to do anything else. Of course, Moises Caicedo is always going to choose Chelsea, but that bid from Liverpool was kind of like a wake-up call for Chelsea. Like, look, you've got to either match this or beat it. Because I think, I think Chelsea and Brighton were in conversation for, I gotta say, I think it was about 2-3 months about Moises Caicedo, and Chelsea were, I think, stuck on 65 million for him, which of course Brighton were never going to accept at the time. And I look at it and go, well, you look at Huijsen's camp now. Again, they might play a team like a fiddle because, of course, Huijsen in terms of personal terms, of course it's a set fee with 50 million, but whether or not, of course, Liverpool, again, it depends on what happens elsewhere, really, in terms of, again, does Ibu go if he doesn't sign a new contract by the start of next season? Joel Konza, Joe Gomez, and it also depends what Liverpool have on their list as well, I would say, to be fair, as well anyway. But Ekatike is 100 million, which is 85 mil, but a deal of around 65 mil can be on the table, although Napoli has put up a price tag of 70 million euros, which is 60 mil on Osimhen. Osimhen will be 27 in December as well. Yeah, I don't want Victor Osimhen. Yeah, no, I don't want Victor Osimhen myself. I think Victor Osimhen would be what Lukaku was in the Prem, or like Chelsea version of Lukaku in the Prem. Anyway, in my opinion. So between Osimhen and 27 years in December, 60 mil and Ekatike, Isak at 23 years for 110, which Isak's not happening, unfortunately. But look, yeah, we can dream, unfortunately, mate. But look, I would absolutely love if Isak was to join. Liverpool had something up their sleeve to really convince him to join. But yeah, no, I don't think it's going to happen anyway. And of course, it is a conversation really where I look at it and go, the only hope for Liverpool was if Newcastle didn't get top 4 or top 5 now, really. And yeah, for me now, it's going to happen. It's more or less going to happen anyway. But we will move on. We're going to talk then about, of course, Milos Kerkez. Now, Ben Jacobs, of course, obviously this is where the report does come from. When there's me talking about Milos Kerkez, of course, it was the report earlier on, of course, that again Liverpool are the favourites to sign Milos Kerkez this season, or this summer coming up, I should say, realistically. And it does also go on to say that not only Liverpool are, of course, our favourites. Sorry, I was checking the article piece. It's not only of course not only Liverpool. It is Manchester City, and a few teams in Italy are also favourites for him as well. Ben Jacobs did go on to say that Liverpool lead the race to sign Milos Kerkez from Bournemouth. Manchester City appreciate Kerkez, but a deal is unlikely at this stage as well. Which, to be fair, when you look at it, again, 40 to 45 million is going to be the price for Milos Kerkez. City, of course, obviously they have Gvardiol. I think they have O'Reilly as well coming out of the academy as well. I think he's played the last couple of games at left back. Obviously, Gvardiol's played at centre half as well. I do think Kerkez will be one of the deals done early. I think for Liverpool, again, I know obviously the big conversation has been like, are Liverpool are they going to go and spend 40 million on a left back? I think they will end up doing it because that's the going rate now for a left back. We're not talking, we're not talking, 10, 12 million pounds anymore for fullbacks. We're talking 30, 40, 50 million for them. You look at, players like Cucurella, for example, going for ridiculous fees. For Chelsea, you look at, again, you think a left back's coming to the Premier League, they've come for 30, 40 million. Like Liverpool's top fee for a fullback is still Glenn Johnson, which is mad to consider. Back in, what was it, like 2010 was it, or 2009? Around, I think it was 2009, wasn't it, the summer of 09, where we signed Glenn Johnson, which, the less said about that, the better, really. But like, I do think Liverpool will sign Kerkez for sure. And look, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But look, as I'm reading the piece I've got by here, it does go on to say as well, Real Madrid, Liverpool, and Manchester City are all interested in Milos Kerkez. Kerkez is expected to make the decision on his future at the end of the season. Liverpool have been keen on him for some time as well, which of course, Richard Hughes knows all about him, of course, which is a good thing as well, I should say. Anyway, and as there's me turning around and saying, about certain things. Apparently, Kevin De Bruyne could be going to Aston Villa. That's a mad one. To be fair, as well. Which again, that's a big surprise. To be fair, but talking then about potential staying. Of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Let's talk about him a little bit because, of course, we was meant to be doing a video earlier on in the week about Trent. And about, is he going to be staying? Of course, obviously scored the winning goal against Leicester, which, of course, has put Liverpool on course to win our 20th league title. And, of course, there's been plenty to say today, of course. Obviously, he had the photo with Mo Salah, which is tradition now, of course, for every match winner or every top game performer. Of course, it didn't happen on Sunday, but in also saying that, of course, today it did happen, and a lot was made about it, wasn't it? There was talks of, could he stay now? Of course, obviously there's not been any real conversation around it. I think Adidas as well also put eyes emojis on Mo Salah's post earlier on, which caused a lot of conversation. And I think the big talking point has been, certainly the last few days, will Liverpool, or do Liverpool have a chance in Trent staying? Now, the report today was Liverpool have not given up hope of re-signing him. Liverpool are not yet done, in terms of trying to convince him to stay. And I look at it and I'm like, I still think he's going to leave. I do. I do still sadly think Trent is going to leave the club at the end of the season. I think if it gets announced that Liverpool are league champions by the end of the weekend, I think maybe next week it might get announced, or there might be some sort of confirmation that Trent is going to be going. But what happens if it's a ruse? What happens if Trent ends up staying? Because it would break the internet, and it would, absolutely it would, because that's all you've had from Fabrizio Romano, from not too much other reporters, but certainly Fabrizio Romano the last couple of days, kind of backtracking a little bit, in terms of not on the report and not anything they've said, but in terms of one minute, they'll say that, oh, the final details are getting sorted. Verbally, Real Madrid think he's a Real Madrid player next season. But then you'll also turn around and go, oh, like there's no final decision made by Trent yet. And it's kind of like, well, if there's no decision made yet by Trent, then, how do you know that things are in the final stages, kind of? And it's kind of backtracking, really, for what he's saying. But look, if he was to stay, then brilliant. I'd absolutely love it if he was to stay, and continue being a Liverpool player. But I personally, I just think he's going, and I think he wants a new adventure and he wants to go to Real Madrid, and of course play out in Spain. Which, again, I've had my own opinions on that. I have my own opinions with Trent. You look at Van Dijk, you look at Salah. They are cemented now, in Liverpool's legacy. They are Liverpool legends now forever. You look at Trent. I think a lot of people have had the conversation of, look, you've done what you've done in the past. It's amazing what you've done in the past, but you could have cemented your legacy at Liverpool, and done more things at Liverpool, really. And I think that's kind of the same conversation everyone's having of, or certainly some people of, you look at it, if it was another player, if it wasn't a Scouser, if it was just some random, Argentinian, for example, again, you can understand it to some extent, but because it is a Scouser, I think there's a level of expectation, really, in terms of what you do at the football club and how you leave the club. And I think a lot of people are upset with how Trent has dealt with it and how it's gone this season in terms of the communication, really, between Trent and the fans and so on as well. But look, things might get cleared up sooner rather than later, in terms of what happens anyway. But look, we'll have to wait and see for that anyway. But I do think Trent will leave, and I do think we'll need obviously a replacement. But I just think he will end up leaving at the end of the season, unfortunately. Anyway, but what else do we have? 45 million. It's not Kirk's release clause. It's just a price tag by Bournemouth. But I think a deal around 35 may. But no, they've already said, mate, that 40 is minimum for Bournemouth. They're not dropping below that. Which, look, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Kirkes. I think we will sign Kirkes. I think, the Huijsen one is 50-50 at the minute between us and Chelsea. But I do think we will end up signing Kirkes for sure. Anyway, but I did want to quickly get up because I've just seen it now. Hang on a minute, because I've just seen Florian Plintenberg mention about Dean Huijsen. Liverpool. Hang on a minute. Where are we by? There we go. 40 minutes ago. So I'll get the screen for you guys. Where is it? Stop that. Invite that. Create the screen. There we go. So as it says below, from Florian Plintenberg, it does go on to say the Liverpool have once again made a strong push for Dean Huijsen in recent days. Projects and figures have all been presented at Liverpool. There are plans to either loan or sell Jarell Konsa, with Huijsen potentially taking over that squad role. Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Real Madrid, and several other top clubs were all actively involved in the race for the 20-year-old gem. His release clause stands at £50 million. The player has not yet made a decision, partly because of some interested clubs. The key dominoes are yet to fall as well. So big news there from Plintenberg. If it is true, of course, do take it with a pinch of salt. Where it does come with Plintenberg, but still, projects and figures have already been presented by Liverpool to Dean Huijsen as well, which, to be fair, is very interesting, of course, anyway. But look, we are going to leave it there for tonight, guys. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in. If somehow Palace come back to win 3-2 now in a minute, in a moment, of course, we will be back with, of course, obviously, confirming Liverpool and Premier League champions, but still, it does look like it will be Sunday now before that happens anyway, so it's already prepared. But yeah, hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your days. Anyway, of course, let us know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Of course, I've just said that, and Palace have scored. Hold your horses. Liverpool could be Premier League champions tonight. Go on, Palace, do it. But look, if Liverpool are crowned Premier League champions, we will be back live. But if not, hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your Thursdays. Not Thursdays, Wednesdays, sorry. And yeah, I will hopefully see you guys tomorrow for another episode anyway. But I've been Connor from the Cop Council. I'll see you guys later. Ta-ra.